Ben Paweł hocamıza iletiyor olacağım. Sözü çok fazla uzatmadan eğitime başlamak üzere Paweł hocaya veriyorum. Paweł hocam, you can start.
All right, so hello and welcome everyone, and good evening. Herkese iyi akşamlar. So my name is Pawel Kowalewski, and tonight I would like to introduce you all to JavaScript programming language. First of all, I will share my screen here. Aypuke, is everything all right?
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, tonight I would like to speak and introduce you all to JavaScript. So by the way, before we start, it doesn't matter, are you a, let's say, experienced developer or someone completely, let's say, complete beginner to programming, or maybe even it's your first time ever, let's say, programming, your first ever experience with programming, computers, this kind of thing. So it doesn't matter what's your, let's say, experience level. I will try to explain everything in very simple steps, from the general, let's say, core ideas like what's internet, what is programming, what is JavaScript, and how websites work, to the working simple project. So hopefully, if we have time, we will create a very, let's say, simple game in JavaScript. So before we start, I would like to also introduce myself and tell you something about myself, because apparently I'm not a web developer. So here you can visit my website. It is kowalewskipaweł.com. So something about me. Professionally, I am an English teacher at Piri University. I also have automotive technician diploma. So as you can see, I have actually two professions, but none of them is related to computers, programming, or anything like that. Unfortunately, I also don't have any professional experience. I mean, like working at a company as a software engineer or anything like that. However, I've been always interested in computers, technology, in programming. Interesting thing is that I earned my first money at the age of around 13 by selling a simple website template. But then I had a very, very long break, and programming was coming always back to my mind. But I always thought that programming is something very difficult. It's for those, math geniuses, for people who are very, very good at math, and people like me just, it's not for me. I'm not going to do that. It's too difficult and I can't make it. However, this idea was coming back to me throughout the years. And more or less 3 years ago, I decided to start again. I started from learning just from the free available on the internet resources. And I started from creating very simple websites using just HTML and CSS, eventually adding some JavaScript to it. Then I moved on for a while to Java, tried some Python, C++, and also different technologies. But eventually I decided to stick just with JavaScript. So as you can see, I'm just a self-learner. And today I would like to also show you that you don't have to be a computer scientist, and programming doesn't have to be very complex and difficult like it may look like. So one more thing about myself and about my story. So here you can see some more information about. I'm totally self-learner. I have never taken any kind of, let's say, class in JavaScript. However, I spent more or less, let's say, probably more than 2,000 hours doing various JavaScript courses online, creating projects, reading books about it, etc. And still, I'm not an expert in this language. I'm not a professionalist, and I still don't know many things about this language. However, I believe that my knowledge is enough to share it with you, and hopefully you'll answer also your questions. So if you have any kind of questions, please feel free to write your questions in the chat box. I will try to answer all of your questions. However, I cannot promise it because, like I said, I am just a, let's say, hobbyist, and it's not my profession. I am not professionalist. And one more thing about this today's tutorial is that I'm going to speak in English. for two reasons. First reason is that my English is better than my Turkish, even though I know some. And second reason is that, as you know, most of the programming languages are based on English language. And also this IT word and everything. So it doesn't matter if you are a student or a web developer, probably you have to know English at least to some extent. So I think it makes sense to make it in English. However, by the way, I'm Polish and I'm not native speaker, so native English speaker, let's say. So English is as foreign language as probably for most of you watching me right now. So don't worry, I'm not going to use very difficult words. I will try to speak, let's say, not very fast, not very slow, just in the right tempo, using simple words without any complex grammar, structures, etc. So I think that we can move on to our course. I will also use some resources, but you will be able to find my presentation PDF file right after this tutorial. And there you will see all of the links that, let's say, I have used in this presentation. All right, so before we start, first of all, I would like to start with a roadmap. So I created this kind of, let's say, plan for our tonight's, let's say, tutorial. And here you can see the main stops on our way towards learning JavaScript. So we will stick to this plan, and those big yellow signs are about the main core ideas and some smaller ideas inside these bigger ones. So we will start with the general knowledge about what is internet and how websites work. Then we will look at the, let's say, correlation between client and server, how does it work? And we will also have a look at what is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then we will have a look at JavaScript itself. We will talk about what is JavaScript. We will talk about different types of programming and programming languages. And also we will talk where can you use and how JavaScript. So it will be, of course, about JavaScript engines. Because JavaScript was primarily made for websites, let's say for web browsers, still we will focus on web development. And in web development, we have two core ideas like front-end and back-end. So we will talk about the similarities and differences. And also I will show you different possibilities, let's say, tell you about the things that you can create with JavaScript. Then we will compare JavaScript with Java. We will talk about JavaScript history and some details about it. And this will be the end of this first part. Then I plan to make 5, maybe a bit longer break. So it will be your time for asking questions and just, let's say, having rest. And then we will move to this practical part. So we will, of course, talk about JavaScript syntax. And we will start with variables and then move on to functions. And we will finish with DOM, which means document object model. So in this way, we will connect JavaScript with HTML file. And hopefully, if we have enough time, I hope that we can finish our project and it will be very simple game. So if you are ready, let's start. All right. So this will be the presentation I will be using tonight. So before we start, ask yourself a question. Where do you usually, how do you usually use internet and your computers and smartphones? If you want, you can share your, let's say, thoughts in the chat box. I won't see it right now. I will check it later. However, probably most of you spend your time on different various websites and, let's say, web applications. For example, maybe you check the news, maybe you check some social media, maybe you, I don't know, check something on Google, maybe you study online, maybe you use some kind of chat program, or many different things. So most of those things, most of the time we spend on the internet is I think that you can agree with me, in the web browsers, checking the websites. So first of all, we should understand, let's say in very, very simplified way, how the internet and websites work. So first of all, think about the internet like, let's say, our planet. And think about website as, let's say, some kind of institutions, buildings that are placed all around the world, connected each other with roads. And as you know, if you want to send a, let's say, letter to your friend or to somewhere, you need this place address, yes? And exactly the same idea works on the internet. So for example, let's say that you want to log into your favorite social media website or visit, for example, our university's Piri Reis University website. Then you have to input the address, and it doesn't matter do you use a computer or smartphone or any other device that is using the web browsers. It is also called client. You send a request to server, and once your request gets the server, if the server exists, of course, and if you can establish the connection, then it prepares the files. It prepares the web page that it can send it back to you, so you can see the website in front of you. And each web page is sent in some kind of bundle. It's kind of a package. And in this bundle, we generally have 3 types of files. This is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And let's say our entry point most of the time is HTML. So now you may ask a question. Maybe some of you know, maybe not. What is HTML? What is CSS? And what is JavaScript? In this way, we are moving to our second part. And if you could compare HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to, let's say, for example, car, HTML would be like a car chassis. Before you build a car, firstly, you need some kind of structure, right? To put the wheels and chassis, doors, different elements on the car. But still, it doesn't mean that it will look good or it will work, yes? You probably cannot drive it. But you can sit inside of it, probably. And then if you want to give it some style, for example, paint it, add some lights and different things like that, this in programming languages, or let's say in website language, would be CSS. So we can say that CSS is responsible for the visual side. But now, once you have your car ready, you also need some engine, electricity, and other mechanisms that will let your car drive. So this is JavaScript, let's say, function in this case. Or in other words, we could say that if you compared HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to English language, for example, we could say that HTML is like nouns in English language. For example, paragraph is a noun. And what if you want to give some kind of style to this paragraph? So for example, you can say the paragraph is red. So you use adjectives, right? So in case of web development, CSS is like adjectives in English language. But what if you want to describe some actions? For example, height. Then in English language, you have to use verbs, right? But in programming language, let's say in web development, JavaScript is responsible for that part. So as you can see, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, they create some kind of synergy. They work together to present you a fully functional website. And at this point, I also want to mention one more thing, because very often people confuse HTML and CSS with programming languages. But actually, they are not real programming languages. Those are just markdown languages. Why they are not real programming languages, you may ask? Because In HTML and CSS, actually with CSS not exactly, but especially with HTML, there is no, let's say, complex logic, functions, or anything like that. It is just about coding things that just saying this will be there, and CSS is just saying this will be red, this will be big, this will be small, and like that. So there is no logic, let's say, complex logic and functions and algorithms, something like that. There isn't such a thing. Actually, we could, let's say, question CSS from this part, but it's not the topic for this lesson. And the only real programming language from this free tools, let's say, is JavaScript. So at this point, you may ask, what is JavaScript then? So here we have the description of JavaScript. JavaScript is a high-level, object-oriented, multi-paradigm programming language. Well, it may look a bit difficult at first sight, but don't worry, it is much easier than it looks like. So first of all, what is high level? High level means that the language is very close to the human language. In this case, it's very close to English, because actually writing in JavaScript is like chatting with your computer in English. Not exactly, but quite close to it. And what else does it mean? Maybe some of you know that actually computers or any other electronic device cannot understand even a word in human language. The only thing they can understand are zeros and ones. And those zeros and ones are called binary code. So at some point, everything has to be translated for the computer to the binary code. And some of the languages are more or less, let's say, high level. Because even though some of the languages like C, for example, we can say they are partly high level, but still you have to think about a lot of, let's say, mechanisms that are happening inside of the computer. For example, memory allocation. How will you manage your memory, etc. But in JavaScript, you don't have to think about those things. Almost. We can, again, let's say, talk about it, discuss, but basically, you can start very easily. Another thing is that this is object-oriented language. And at this point, if some of you have some kind of experience with it, but hey, you don't have to write in object style. No, you don't have to, but actually behind the scenes at the top, JavaScript is made out of the, let's say, objects which are interacting with each other. And another part is multi-paradigm. And multi-paradigm simply means that you can write JavaScript in any kind of, let's say, programming style you want. So let's have a look at paradigm a bit more. So paradigm, like I told you, is a kind of style type of, let's say, structuring, writing your code. In programming, we generally say there are three types of, let's say, styles of programming. First one, procedural programming, which means that you give simple instructions to your computer, one by one, and they are just read like that, from left to right, down, and for example, let's say, do this, after that, do that, then do this, then do that, like that. Actually, we will use mainly procedural programming today. Another one is object-oriented programming. So in this style, everything is kind of an object. So, for example, you have some objects like that. You have some things inside of it. Some of them have some kind of, let's say, properties, functions, and all of those objects can work, cooperate together. For example, Java is this kind of language. And functional programming. Functional programming is very similar to object-oriented, but it's a bit different because in object-oriented we had object, while in functional programming everything is not object but function. So in JavaScript you can use all of those styles, and also you can mix them together. Another two principles are imperative programming and declarative programming. Imperative programming means that you give computer every single very detailed instruction. For example, let's think about this kind of situation. You are hungry and you want to eat something. So imagine in imperative example, I tell you, stand up, dress up, open the door, leave your home, go down the stairs, walk 500 meters down the road, turn right, enter the market, buy this. As you can see, it's very long. Yes, we give all of the details, but it's not something that much difficult. We can actually understand it by just, if you are hungry, go buy something and prepare yourself a food, right? So this is declarative style. So in programming, let's say, think like that. At some point, someone before you already prepared all of those functions and all of those logics. And now you can just call each of those functions without thinking about their content. All right, and one more thing about programming languages. Actually, we have two types of programming languages, and those are compiled language and interpreted languages. We can say that JavaScript is interpreted one, but not exactly. What does it mean compiled? Let's first look here. Like I told you, computers cannot understand any code. They cannot understand C, C++, Java, JavaScript. Actually, they cannot understand anything. They first need some kind of translator who will translate all of this human-like code for the machine code. And in compiled languages, like most of the programming languages, by the way, are compiled languages, you write your source code. So you write your code in the given programming language. Then you compile it with some program. That's why most of the programming languages, they need some kind of environment, special environment for that purpose. For example, in Java, like I said again, you have to download the development kit, etc. Have to download, I think also with Python, as far as I remember, you have to download the different, let's say, libraries and prepare editors, etc. And then after you finish writing your code, you can compile it. And this code will be converted to the machine code, which will give you a file. And then you can open this file and run the program. But interpreted languages are executed almost immediately. This step is kind of skipped. Actually, there is ready, let's say, a code that will understand your instructions, but the source code itself is not, let's say, firstly compiled. By the way, JavaScript is interpreted language, and also Python is interpreted language, from what I remember. And another thing here is that because of that issue, it can have some pros and cons. First of all, I think for beginners, it's much better option because you can see the results of your code almost instantly. You can see almost immediately the results of your code. Unlike compiled languages, where firstly you need to compile the whole file, you need to wait till the exec file will be created, and maybe also if there are some bugs, let's say errors, mistakes in your code, some things to fix, to correct, to change, you will have to find for the code, etc., and it will take time, and sometimes it may be demotivating. However, one more thing I have to mention, that JavaScript actually is not just interpreted language. Actually, this is just in time compiled language. And of course, it is interpreted, but we don't have to, let's say, convert the file source code to the exec file, like in compiled languages. But each line during the execution behind the scenes is, while during the interpretation, is also compiled into machine code. And one more important thing I want to mention here, that maybe some of you can say that, teacher, then it means that JavaScript must be very slow. And you are right, partly, because there is a difference, of course, between the machine code and interpreted language. However, today, with today's computers, very powerful computers, and even our phones and smart devices, it's not a big problem anymore. And also JavaScript gets better and better, and engines get improved, and everything works much faster. So the performance is going up and up. However, still, if you want to create some very complex graphics, or let's say very scientific program, something like that, even though it's possible with JavaScript, probably it won't be the best solution to use JavaScript. All right, so now we know how programming languages work, what are the different types of programming languages, what is JavaScript. So where can you use JavaScript? How? Do you need any kind of program? Where can you run it? And the answer is that probably you already have the tools ready to run JavaScript, just like that. And those are the web browsers, because JavaScript was primarily made for web browsers. That's why also web developers used to call it a toy language, not a real programming language for many years, because JavaScript used to live inside of the web browsers. In fact, it was the only one programming language that you could use inside of the web browsers. Today, it's not longer exactly true because there is a WebAssembly, other things, but I don't want to go into the details right now. Here you can see most popular, let's say, engines, JavaScript engines that are used inside of each popular web browser. And one of the best and most popular is V8 engine. It is kind of a program which interprets JavaScript to the computer. And it lives in Google Chrome. However, in 2009, one very smart programmer took this V8 engine from Google Chrome and created a C program called Node.js that now can run JavaScript outside of the browser. What does it mean? That you can do pretty much anything with JavaScript today. Okay, let's move on. However, still JavaScript is mainly used in the web development. If you ever, let's say, read about web development, if you have ever been interested in this topic, probably you have heard about front-end and back-end part. So before we move on, we really have to understand the differences between those two, let's say, ideas, let's say, topics. So what is front-end and what is back-end? Let me tell you very short, let's say, story, anecdote, or this kind of things. Let's say that how to understand the differences between front-end and back-end. Think that you go to a restaurant. Hopefully we'll be able to do it so soon. And you can see the interior of the restaurant. You can see the tables and chairs and everything. And you can see the waiter coming to your desk, giving you the menu. And then you check what do they have in the menu. And let's say that you order pizza, for example. So then you have to wait a bit. Waiter takes your order and sends it to the kitchen. And there in the kitchen, cook and chef, they take all of the ingredients, they prepare your food, they cut it, they cook it, warm it up, etc. and everything. They do a lot of things that you don't know and you don't have to know. Or don't need to know, actually. And once your meal is ready, the waiter is coming back to kitchen and takes your ready meal and brings it back to your table. So you can now think about this analogy in terms of front-end and back-end. So if you were about to compare front-end to this analogy, we can say that website, everything that you can see in front of yourself, like all of those buttons, images, everything that you can see as a user, it's called front-end. And mainly it consists of CSS, HTML, and also JavaScript, which plays some kind of role in between those two worlds. And basically front-end is web browsers. Yes, we can say the front-end means actually website, web applications, this is everything what you can see. However, we need also backend. Why do we need backend now, you may ask? For example, imagine that you log into your favorite, or let's say to your bank account, or let's say student's account, for example. So you go to website, you enter your email address, password, and then you click enter. So then JavaScript takes your request, sends it to the server on the backend, And then server connects to the database, and the database, it checks your credentials. Do we have such a student? Yes. Is it his password? Yes. If it's your password, then it takes all of the information about you, and sometimes using the API, which means application program interface, sends this data back to the front end, so you can see your profile, let's say, or you can see something different, your post, your friend's post, and different things. So that's why we need both backend and front end. And one more important thing to remember, even though mainly as a users, as a clients, let's say on the front end, we take something from the backend, we can also send something. That's why we say get and post methods. If you want, you can take notes at this point. If you have some kind of notebooks or whatever, please feel free to take notes at this point. So most of the time, first we send some get requests. So we get something from the backend, we see the website, then let's say when we want to post something, for example, we want to enter new posts to your social media, then we send something back to the backend. So basically that's how backend and frontend works. And those parts together are called full stack. That's why you may see in the, let's say maybe the job advertisement that sometimes there are front-end developers, back-end developers, and full stack developers. And before, even though you programmed your website on the front-end part with CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, you couldn't use JavaScript on the backend. So still you had to learn another language to program your logic, server logic. However, from now on, you can create everything using only JavaScript. Thanks to Node.js, you can create a server logic, APIs, and even database. For example, MongoDB. If you heard about it, this is the database based on JavaScript. So you can create everything just with one single language. I think great. What else can you do with JavaScript? Basically anything. First of all, you can create front-end applications, so web pages. Also, maybe some of you have heard about frameworks such as React, Angular, and Vue. Those are just special tools that help to maintain the code. Big companies that have very complex websites, they use those frameworks to make the coding in JavaScript more efficient and faster, and you can reuse some parts, etc. They also give some kind of features, new features to the language, and this kind of things. However, all of them are based on JavaScript. So it is pure JavaScript, nothing else. You can also create backend apps, so server logics and different kinds of things like that. You can even create desktop applications, for example, with Electron. What does it mean? For example, I don't know, any kind of application that you can run just right from your desktop, from your computer, let's say on Windows or maybe even Linux. And also you can create, this one is, in my opinion, the most interesting and exciting part about is that you can right now create native mobile applications. For example, with React Native. What does it mean? That using JavaScript code, you can create applications that will run both on Android and iOS without even touching Java, Kotlin, Objective-C, Swift, or anything like that. You don't have to even write a line of the code to make your application like that. For example, I've written 2 months ago one very simple application, totally in JavaScript, and even I published it on Google Play Store without any problem. So I think it's a great thing. You can also do a lot of different things with JavaScript. For example, last week I've created a cryptocurrency, blockchain application, let's say, based totally on JavaScript. You can even create, let's say, data visualization projects, or even artificial intelligence programs using JavaScript. So basically, you can do pretty much everything with JavaScript, even video games. All right, and now very common topic. So very often I hear that people confuse JavaScript with Java, but actually those are two completely different things. And JavaScript is not equal to Java. This is just a coincidence. Okay, they have similar name because JavaScript, Java, very similar, yes, Java, but no, there are two completely different languages. While JavaScript is just-in-time compiled language, multi-paradigm, created mainly for web pages that you can write in any kind of style that you want. Java is a compiled language, which is object-oriented. So basically, you have to write everything in object style in Java, mainly. But it's not the case for JavaScript. And also at this point, I would like to show you, even though it's a JavaScript course, but very, very, very often I hear people always confusing those two languages. So I wanted to show you also the real example of the Hello World application made in Java and JavaScript. If you are ready, let's have a look at the first one. So this is the Java code on the left side. And this is very simple application made for Android. On the right side, you can see the output. So we have just a simple click me button. When you click on this button, you get the alert with hello world text. That's all. That's how many lines you need for Java. I think pretty complicated to create something such very simple things. Of course, there's also the manifest and views files included in it, but I will not even mention those things. And now try to guess how many lines of code do you need to achieve the exactly same thing in JavaScript. You can send your comments in the chat box and let's have a look. So this is the same program in JavaScript. And as you can see, it's just like barely 3 lines. To present it to you right now, how simple and quick it can be, now I would like to code live this very simple application on Screamba website. It will be kind of my editor. So please have a look. Don't worry if you don't understand what's going on here right now on my screen. And now I will show you. So this is the HTML code, and here we have the JavaScript file. Firstly, let's add some button with on-click listener, and here we will, let's say, like, hello function and click me button, and we will add JavaScript. By the way, normally we add JavaScript to HTML file like that. By the convention, you can put it in head or in body, but it's very good to put it at the end of the body part. Actually, there are many different theoretical parts behind it, but don't worry about it. But let's say, so this is a script. Normally, you write the script inside of those 2 tags, but I will just give the source file here. Okay, so we have the button. Now that nothing happens here, but as you can see, we will write function, hello, say alert, hello, world, let's click it, run, and here we go. That's all, our program works. That's all. We could even rewrite it even in just 1 line. For example, let's try const hello is equal to function, arrow notation, alert, hello, world. All right, let's run it. Let's check it. Does it work? Yep, it works. So as you can see, this is just 1 line of code and it works. Okay, let's go back to our code. So this was the comparison between JavaScript and Java and JavaScript. And before we finish this first part, I also want to mention something about JavaScript history. JavaScript was made in 1995, just in 10 days. By the way, it was based on the C language. That's why while coding JavaScript, you may see a lot of similarities between syntax of C. For example, loops, for, while, do, while, and this kind of things are very similar because JavaScript was based on C language. Meanwhile, in 1997, actually it was made for Netscape web browser at that time. And in 1997, ECMA International, the company, got the rights to JavaScript. And actually, from this time, some even call JavaScript ECMAScript, not just JavaScript, but actually it's not true. ECMAScript is kind of a standardization. This company meets almost every year. They have some software developers from all around the world. They meet, they listen to the people, and they update JavaScript language. They made some changes. By the way, at this point, we can find the origin of JavaScript name. Actually, it was called LiveScript at first, then it was called JavaScript. Why JavaScript? Because in 90s, Java was very, very popular. Actually, it still is, still today. And the author thought that if they give the name to JavaScript to LiveScript as JavaScript, then because of those similarities, they may achieve some market success. And I think it was the biggest mistake. But actually, at the same time, yeah, JavaScript is still quite successful. But I think it wasn't a good coincidence. And like I told you, since 1997, JavaScript was being updated almost every year, till 2015. Actually, not every year. It was in few years breaks. And the biggest ever update happened in 2015. And it is also called ES6. So that's why you may see a lot of web developers relating to JavaScript as the modern JavaScript. So everything what was after ES6, ES6 syntax, ES6 JavaScript, ECMAScript 2015, etc. Because at that time JavaScript got a lot of new functionalities, new syntax, everything, many things changed. And actually from that time we have update to this language almost every year, as you can see, in different versions of JavaScript. So it is live language, it is updated nearly every year. However, the last thing you may ask yourself right now, like, okay, so it is updated so often. So does it mean that if I write the JavaScript today, it may not work tomorrow? No. No, this is one of the best things about JavaScript, I think, personally, because JavaScript is backward compatible. What does it mean? That even though the language gets updated all the time, there are new features added to the language, the old features are never removed. What does it mean? For example, the code that you've written in 1997 will still work if you write it in 2020 with the current, let's say, modern JavaScript engine. It will work. There won't be any problem. It's like that because think how many websites do we have on the internet? If it was like that, then many websites couldn't work. So that's why JavaScript has to be backward compatible. But it doesn't mean that old web browsers can understand the modern syntax. That's why if you get more into the JavaScript, let's say you will find that there are many programs called, like, for example, Babel, Transpiler, that are converting the new syntax to the old syntax. So it always should work everywhere, on every web browser, every, let's say, device that can run JavaScript. It should always work in the same way. All right, so this is the last thing about JavaScript, about the theory behind JavaScript. I just want to show you this very short video here about the popularity of JavaScript. So let's have a look here. As you can see, here we have the programming languages, the most popular programming languages all around the world, starting from 90s, and how it was changing. I'll just move on a bit. Look, in 1996, when JavaScript is here on the 4th place somewhere, C was on top, then JavaScript very quickly took the place, and JavaScript was always behind since 90s. However, C was the, let's say, king of all of these programming languages for a long time. And let's have a look. Just in 2000, things changed a lot. And from that time, Java was the best, let's say, the most popular programming language. We always had JavaScript very close. Things were changing over the years. However, as you can see, JavaScript is always somewhere at the top. And as you can see here, JavaScript even was the #1 language for some time. To finish in, let's say, 2020. So the situation right now looks more or less like that. So Python is somewhere at the top, JavaScript is very close, and also Java. So those three top most popular languages are Python, JavaScript, and Java. So I hope with this I really convinced you to learn JavaScript, to get interested in this language, amazing language in my opinion. And yeah, so this is all about theory. As you can see, we covered all of those topics. We looked how internet works, how website works, JavaScript, what is HTML, CSS, what is JavaScript, types of programming languages, where can you run, how can you run JavaScript. We compared JavaScript to Java. We also looked at the JavaScript history. And this is the end of the part 1. So thank you for listening for this time. I think that at this time we can have 5 minutes break. And also feel free to ask questions. I don't know, are there any questions so far, Aybuka?
Şu an there is no any questions. There isn't any questions. I think we can make a 5 minutes break.
All right. By the way, please feel free. Don't be shy. Even if you cannot say in English, please feel free to write your questions in Turkish, and our friends will try to help. Like Aybuka and Yusuf are here with us, and also the others. So maybe you can also say Aybuka.
Evet, Türkçe de İngilizce de sorabilirsiniz arkadaşlar. Ben ileteceğim Paweł hocamıza. Şimdilik 5 dakika ara vereceğiz. 5 dakikadan sonra devam edeceğiz.
By the way, during this time, 5 minutes, you can think about your questions, you can rest a bit, etc. Because after the break time, we will move on to syntax, JavaScript syntax. And this is the part where we will actually start programming, coding. So maybe before we move to this part, I will just show you, let me just show one more thing. At this part, if you want, of course, feel free to just watch me and just listen and take notes even in your notebooks or whatever you want if you take any notes. But I strongly recommend you to try to code along with me, or at least at the last part where I will code the game project in JavaScript. So if you want to code along with me, you can use if you have any kind of, let's say, editor, your favorite coding editor, please feel free to use it. For example, Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or anything like that. If not, or actually, this is my recommendation for you. You can go to website screamba.com. This website, screamba.com. Can we share it in the chat box on YouTube?
Tabii. Yusuf, screamba.com'u paylaşabilir miyiz? We can continue, and Yusuf will write it on the chat screen.
Okay, just one thing. If you are on a Screamba, if you want to write also code along with me, please click on the screens. If you log in, you will have to register it probably, but it's very easy. You have GitHub, you can just register with GitHub or probably Google or Facebook, maybe, I don't know. And once you log into Screamba, click on this screens in your dashboard. Once you are in your dashboard, click screens, click new screen, and then select template, JavaScript, just JavaScript, it's okay. And then click submit. All right, so I will show once again, maybe. So once again, you are in the dashboard, click screens, then new screen, then JavaScript, and then submit. In this case, you will see this kind of coding editor, and you will be able to code along with me or take some notes there, code, try, check JavaScript live, etc. All right, so I think, Yusuf, you can put on the...
We put the website on the chat screen. So,
all right. So I'm going out, so I will leave you for 2 or 3 minutes. I will be back in 2 minutes.
Okay. Şimdi bir 5 dakika ara vereceğiz arkadaşlar. Daha sonra yayınımıza devam edeceğiz.
Okay. Will you announce something, Aybuka?
Evet, şimdi devam ediyoruz. Kodlama kısmına geçeceğiz yayınımızın. Paweł hocam, we can move on.
All right. Okay, so
maybe you can magnify the font a little bit.
all right. Let me try like that. How is it?
That's okay.
All right. All right, so hello and welcome back. after the break time. And in this part, we will focus on the syntax part. So real programming, let's say real coding with JavaScript. And first thing we will have a look at will be variables. So we will have a look at variables in JavaScript, because variables are one of the core, let's say, principles of any programming languages, or most of the programming languages, because variables store data. You can store any kind of information inside of the variables that later on can be reused in different places, in different, let's say, functions. Then we will move on to functions and finish with document object model. So we will connect JavaScript with HTML. Okay, so let's have a look. In JavaScript, we have two types of values, variable values. And first one is called compound.
Paweł hocam.
Is there any problem?
We have a question, actually.
Okay.
What is the most needed programming language for today? Asked Mehmet Akif Öğüt.
You mean like in terms of jobs, yes? This kind of things.
Yes, actually.
Probably JavaScript won't be one of the top languages. We cannot answer like one, this is the best, the most, let's say, wanted language. But I am pretty sure that you will find job easily if you learn JavaScript, because most of the web applications, websites, and not just web applications are based on JavaScript. So if you check the advertisements, you will see probably a lot of JavaScript advertisements. So you can see, but basically the top two is Python, JavaScript, and Java. Of course, there are some other languages that are trying to, let's say, enter the market, but still probably JavaScript, Python, and I think also Java will lead for many, many years. So I can assure that probably, even though I'm not a web developer, I am sure about it that JavaScript will be a good investment of time for many, many years. Okay, but let's leave this another questions for the end of the part, but please feel free to write the questions. We will just read them after that. All right, can I continue, Aybüke?
Yes, there is another question, but
okay,
we can answer it after
okay.
this.
If it's not if it's not like teacher, I didn't understand this, can you repeat? If it's something like that, then yes. But if it's like general, then maybe we can answer. If it's something like, you know,
it's a little bit general, so.
Okay, then. So I trust you, Aybüke. You will be my assistant today. Thank you. If it's something urgent, is if you don't understand my English, or if you don't understand some of the ideas I explained, like, teacher, I didn't understand anything. Can you please repeat it? Then please feel free, we will stop, we will repeat. But if it's something general, we will answer these questions, but let's firstly finish this and then we will answer.
Eğer genel bir sorunuz varsa, yani demin Akif'in sorduğu gibi mesela en çok şu an ihtiyaç duyulan programlama dili nedir diye bir sorunuz varsa, sormak için kendinizi özgür hissedebilirsiniz. Slaytlardan sonra cevaplayacağız sorunuzu. Ancak yayın akışı içerisinde burayı anlamadım veya anlamadığınız bir yer olduğu zaman sorabilirsiniz, aşağıya yazabilirsiniz. Paweł Hoca hemen yanıtlayacaktır. Okay, now we can move on.
Okay, thank you. All right, so like I said, we have two types of values in variables in JavaScript. First one is a compound, or also called objects. This can be actually about different types of data. So what is compound? Like from English, what is in Turkish? Can you help me, Aybüke? What is in Turkish compound? Like mixed values. I don't know. If Aybüke can help me with Turkish.
Bileşik compound. Maybe.
Thank you so much. So think like that. Compound values they have different few types of things inside of them. And we have also primitive type of data values, let's say in variables in JavaScript. And what are those primitives? Primitives are basically simple, like for example, text, numbers, this kind of things. So we can think like that. Always think like two categories. For example, if we look at the primitives, firstly we will look at the primitives, okay? Primitive. You can take notes somewhere, even primitive types of values. So we have in JavaScript, we have actually 7 types of primitive values. So we have numbers, strings, and booleans. And we will focus on those 3 right now. Numbers, it's number. Actually, in JavaScript, it is also about floating numbers. So it's also about the decimals. So it can be the full integer number, all number dot something, for example, 2 or 2.1, for example. And it will also work. We can add strings. Strings are basically text. It's just text. And Boolean, this is like true, false. Think like this, like on, off, 1, 0. Think like that. So Boolean. There are also undefined. So when, for example, you define, you declare the variable, but you don't give it any value. Null, it's like 0. Symbol is a unique value, but don't worry about this. We will not use it. And BigInt, introduced just last year in JavaScript 2020. It's about very big, large numbers. However, we will also not worry about it right now. So just think about numbers, strings, and booleans for the time being. And also, one more important thing about variables in JavaScript is that JavaScript has dynamic typing. What does it mean? That if you define a variable, you don't have to do anything like telling the computer, is it string, is it number, is it boolean, is it null, is it a different thing or undefined or whatever. No, you don't have to. There is no need to do that. This part will work automatically for you by JavaScript. And at this point, some of you may say, this is not good. I don't like it. Actually, from one side, it makes coding in JavaScript very easy. Yes, it's true. You can write less code, faster, and everything will work. However, the problem starts if you create very complex applications that needs a lot of security. So in this case, this may lead to a lot of problems and bugs in the code. Bug means error, by the way, for those who are not familiar. However, this problem has been already solved with a language called TypeScript. So TypeScript is basically JavaScript. It is language created by Microsoft. So it is totally like JavaScript, just instead of dynamic typing, it is using static typing like in most of the programming languages. However, at this point, you don't have to think about TypeScript. Feel free to use JavaScript. You can still omit those problems in many different ways. Just, I want to let you know that there is something like that. All right, let's move on to the code then. This will be the place where I will code everything. So this is Screenby. If maybe some of you are using right now, maybe not. So we have a few things here. And as you can see, this part here in the middle, this is the place where I will write code, JavaScript code, for example. And here, when I run it, we will see this kind of small box. As you can see, this looks like a web browser, right? And actually, it works like a web browser because we will see our, let's say, websites, mini websites created here in this editor. Here, after running it, we will see in this emulated, let's say, virtual web page. However, we don't always see immediate results on the website. We don't want to show something to the website sometimes at first. We want some mechanisms to work inside of the JavaScript behind the scenes, let's say. So for that reason, we will also use a lot this part, which is called console. And this is very, very, very, very important part in JavaScript and probably in most of the programming languages. For probably most of you, if you had any kind of experience with programming languages, you know what's that. But for those ones who are not familiar, I will explain that console is kind of a display. It's kind of like a screen for our code where we can see some output, not visual, but text. In text style, we can see some text that is generated from our code. So we will use it to check the results of many functions, operations, variables, and different mechanisms inside of our JavaScript. For example, let me show you console log. I already started typing. Let's say hello console. Let's run it. And as you can see, here we don't see anything, but here we can see in the console, hello console, right? So this console log, please take a note somewhere. It is very important, very useful, and we will use it a lot. Even if you become professional web developer, you will use it pretty much all the time. Like all the time. So please take a note of console log. It is very important. And yes, this is how it works. So we write console.log, and this parenthesis here, we finish with semicolon, and in between those parentheses, we write the things that we want to log here into the console. Another thing here is that on the left side, you can see the files. Right now, we have just index.js, it is index.javascript, and index.html. So this is really our HTML file. We are not interested in this file for the time being, and JavaScript. All right, if everything is clear, we can start coding. Ibuka, are there any kind of big problems right now? Any questions, something like that?
No.
Okay.
We can continue.
Great. All right, so let's start from variables. Like I told you, how can we define variable in JavaScript? First, I will show you the old way. So before we used to define variables like that. For example, var. With var, you define the variable, like variable. Let's say name of the variable, my name. By the way, by convention, we always should, it's not a mistake, but you should start naming your variables with lowercase letter, not capital letter, because capital letters are reserved for classes in JavaScript. So it may lead to some kind of misunderstanding, etc. But your code will work. And if you have the two words in one word, you shouldn't use any spaces or anything like that, of course. And you should use the capital letter second. This is called camel case writing. Camel case writing, I will write like that. Camel case. You can take notes somewhere. All right. So now we have the var, the variable, name of the variable, and let's assign something to it. By this equal sign, we assign values to variables. It doesn't mean we don't compare anything here. Don't misunderstand. In JavaScript, this equal sign means that you assign some value to the variable. Let's say my name is Paweł, so I will use double quotes because this is string, and I will say Paweł and finish it with semicolon. Why did I use semicolon here? Because JavaScript don't care about white spaces, unlike Python, for example. So you can write everything on the same line even. But to finish one statement in JavaScript, most of the time we will use semicolon. You can skip them, but it's better to use them. So I encourage you to use semicolons at the end of each statement. All right, so this was the old way how to create variables in JavaScript. Let's say here I will write the comment, old way. However, now, from now on, we have ES6. Let's say since ES6, so since 2015, we have different new way to declare variables in JavaScript. And this is let and const. Now I will explain, but first let me write the comment. By the way, maybe you have paid attention. Can you see this here, two backslashes and this gray text? Is it visible on YouTube? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so this is comment. In each programming languages, you will want to add some comments, right? So in JavaScript, we also use comments. Why you want to use comments? Because we are human beings, we make mistakes, we forget what we've written. Sometimes we don't understand our code. And sometimes also different people, especially if you are working in a company, will read your code. That's why it's good sometimes to leave some comments about each part of your code, so other people can read it and understand, and also for yourself. And by the way, comments are skipped by computer. They are not for the computer, they're just for you. So you can write everything you want, anything. And this is one way how to create a comment, but just one single line comment. If you want to create a double, let's say 2 lines or multi-lines comment, we write slash and this asterisk. And then if you want to finish the comment, you finish with asterisk and slash. So in between those two, everything in between those two, let's say, signs will be omitted, skipped by the code. It won't be read by JavaScript engine. So here I will write before ES6, we used var keyword for declaring variables. After ES6, we use let and const keywords to declare, or let's say for declaring variables. I will explain right now. What do I mean? Look at this example. For example, const. Const means something is constant. It's unchangeable. You cannot change it. You shouldn't actually. My name, again. By the way, I will have to uncomment. If you don't want to use some code, you can just uncomment it. Now, as you can see, it's gray. It means that it's omitted. My name. Again, I will write Paweł, because probably my name will not change, right? But what about age? Can I write something like that? Const age equal, I am 19 years old, let's say. Can I leave it like that, const? No. Why not? Because my age, unfortunately, like for all of us, we get older and older, and our age is changing every year. So we will want to change this variable. Now it's 19, but sometime later it will be 20. So we cannot change it. That's why we have to use let keyword. In this case, we can change later on this variable. I will explain to you. Let's have a look at this console log. Let's log my name. As you can see now, it's Paweł here. Yes, you can see Paweł. By the way, if you want to log more than one variable inside of the console log, you can use comma. Don't forget about comma. And let's write also age. Let's run it right now. We have Paweł, 19. So this is my age, right? But what if I want to change my age? Let's say age is equal to 20. And now, as you can see, it's 20. Why? Because JavaScript is reading code from the left to the right and from the top to the bottom. So it goes like that. From here, it reads. Okay, my name. Then it finds, oh, another variable, age. Okay, it's 19. All right. And then it says, age is changed. So again, we define again age, and now it's 20. That's why we have age 20 right now. By the way, if you ask me, can I do something like that? Let and again define the same variable. No, it will give us error. So once you define any variable with the same name using const or let or var, if you want to reassign this variable, it's of course it's just for let. You used just this variable's name. That's all. So you add the same name, and now you give the new value. You can also do it in mathematical operation. For example, you can say 19 plus 1. And let's check, will it work right now? Of course, again, it works. Paweł, 20. We can do it also in different way. There are many interesting, let's say, features of JavaScript. For example, you can write if it's number, you can write the name. of the variable and add plus plus. Look what will happen right now. Again, we have 20, right? Because here we increased it by 1. All right, and I told you that we have 3 types of most important of variables. Let's say primitive: numbers, strings, and boolean. Let's look at the boolean right now. So what is boolean? For example, let's say let is student, am I student, right? Is student, let's say true. In this case, pay attention that I didn't use any double quotes or any quotes, because this is different type of value. This is not string. Even though it looks like string, it is not string. So now we can see that my name is Paweł, I am 19 years old, and I am a student. And let's say something like that. Actually, there are also different ways of defining the, let's say, strings. So let's say something like that: const about me, and I will say something like that: I am a student at, let's say, Piri Reis University. And look what happened right now. I used double quotes twice, yes? Look, if I run the code, we have an error here, yes? Why it's like that? If you want to use quotes again in the same string, you will have to use backticks. For example, like that. And now it should work, as you can see. But I find it very confusing. So you can also use single quotes for this one. For example, look, now we embraced the whole string in double quotes, but this inside of this quotation is in single quotes. You can also do the opposite. You can use single quotes outside and double quotes inside. And it will also work, yes? However, so this is, as you can see, we have at least 2 ways of defining strings. So single and double quotes. You can see why we use this also right now. And also, what if you wanted to change your university? And you wanted this string to be kind of dynamic. In this case, we could, let's say, for example, here we will write const, or let's say let university name, let's say Piri Reis University. And now, what if I wanted to add this name to this string? I could do it like that, for example. Just add it. As you can see, it will work. Let's log it here. About me. You can see in the console now, I am a student at Reis University. Yes, so it is one way to do this. And also, other way to do this, my favorite actually, is using backticks. Backticks are called also template literals. Template literals. And this is how you can find. Aybuke, can you explain where can you find it on Turkish keyboards?
Okay. Enter tuşunun yanında noktalı virgül var ya. Alt GR'ye basıp noktalı virgüle bastığınızda backtick dediğimiz işareti elde edebilirsiniz.
So for example, here, let's say I can change it to backticks and it will also work, right? So this is the third way to create strings. But backticks allows you to do something much more cooler than that. And what else? What can you do? If you use $sign and 2 curly brackets inside of this kind of string used with backticks, with template literals, here you can put some expressions, JavaScript code, or you just the variables. Whoops, sorry, not this one, not undefined. University name, yes. And let's have a look what will happen right now. Ta-da, it works. What if I change this to, I don't know, let's say Oxford University? As you can see, it works. Let's say Turkey University. It works. So as you can see, it's dynamic. You can change it all the time, as long as you want. You can also use this backticks inside of the console log. Let's say, for example, something like that. 2 plus 2 is equal to, you can see, we don't see here. This code won't be executed here in this code because this is a string. So here you can also use, again, $sign and curly brackets. And for example, you can use this mathematical expression here inside of this curly brackets. And as you can see, now we have 2 plus 2 is 4. Quite cool, I think. So those are the things. By the way, as you can see, I showed this a lot of operators, but I didn't explain to you what do they mean, how do they work. So in JavaScript, we have operators, and such as one of the most popular are plus, minus, divide, multiply, or maybe let's say multiply, divide, modulo, and let's say equality or strict equality. By the way, these two things here, equality is not the same as this, okay? This is something completely different. And also we have smaller, bigger, and this kind of things. And Ibuka, can you also explain these two things? Can I ask you, just to be sure? We talked about it before. So modulo and this equality signs.
Tamam. Bu modula dediğimiz şey mod. Mesela 13'ü 2'ye böleceğiz. 13'ün 2 ile bölümünden kalan işlemini yapmak istediğimiz zaman bu yüzde işaretini kullanıyoruz. Eşittir'e gelince eşittir'i tek başına koyduğumuz zaman sadece atama yapıyoruz. Ama 2 tane koyduğumuz zaman bu buna eşit mi diye sormuş oluyoruz aslında.
Okay, thank you. Okay. For example, I will not talk about it today too much because we are really short on time. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach me after the class. Maybe we will repeat it after a week or after a few days. Who knows? Maybe we'll continue this series. It depends on you, actually. But today I want to finish everything, so please forgive me this. I will just skip on subtopics. And yeah, basically that's all about this type of variables. And now let's so those were the primitive types of values. Yes, we learned how we can define strings. We have 3 ways to define strings. We have numbers. We have also booleans, true, false. How to console log, etc. But also here, as you remember, we had second type of object. So object compound type of values. And we will talk just about 2 of them because we will use most of the time just 2 of them. So compound object values, variable values, let's say. Variables. Okay. So first one is object. Maybe like that. Actually, look, I could change it in a different way. Let's make it like that. Maybe like that. Whoops. All right. So objects. How do we create objects in this case? Let's think about this. Look, for example, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 different variables created here. But what if we wanted to store all of this data in one single constant, let's say variable? And this is where objects comes to play. Let's define an object, Pawel Kowalewski. And now let's assign to it object. So we define objects with 2 curly brackets like that in JavaScript. Let's finish it also with semicolon here. And inside of the object, we give them key values. What is key value? Now I'll explain. Let's say, for example, here we had name. So let's write name. It will be equal to Paweł. Then comma, surname, let's say, let's give it also surname, Kowalewski. Then comma, let's say age 20. And what do we have here? Is a student. So my student status is student. Let's say true. And university. Piri, Reis, University. All right. So this is object. Look, one variable, all of the values in one single object. So as you can see, it's more practical in a way. But now you may ask, okay, teacher, so we have name, surname, age, student. Also, by the way, please pay attention that I put both strings, numbers, and Boolean types of value inside of one object. So you can mix those types of values, different primitive values inside of the object. But what if I wanted to see what will this object output? Let's say, let's write this, Pawel Kowalewski. Let's run our name, and look, we have the object. And you may ask, okay, quite nice, but you know, it's not what I'm looking for. Maybe I want to check just your name or something different about you. How can we do that? We can achieve it in 2 ways. One of the most popular is by dot notation, dot. How can we do this? Because each object has its own properties, or I call them keys. So, for example, we have, look, how many properties do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 properties right now defined in this object. And each of this property has its own value. For example, Pawel Kowalewski, 20, true, Piri University. So what if you want to see just my age? So in this case, you write the object's name, dot, age. Let's run it. Ta-da! And we have just 20, as you can see. So this is how we reach just this value. So just the value of this key age will be printed, let's say, to the console. And what if, for example, you wanted to write something like that? Is a student? I couldn't write student. True. Let's check, will it work? Can I write something like that? No, it will not work. Yes, it's wrong. You cannot do that. So how can you do that? Instead of notation, let's put this into brackets. And here, probably it should work. Yeah, and it works, as you can see. So if you want to put some key as a string, you can do it, but then you will have to access it with a curly bracket and also put the string inside of this, normal bracket. But let's go back to the old one. So most of the time we use it like that. And what if you wanted to change some of the value of this object? So like I told you, if you define something with const, you cannot reassign it, yes? Let's try to reassign it, for example, Pawel Kowalewski to Paweł. Let's try, what will happen? Error, yes, type error, because we cannot reassign const variable once again. But what if we do something like that? Paweł dot name is equal to, I don't know, let's say Adam. It works. So as you can see, we still get the same object, but name value has been changed. So we can do this in this way. All right, so that's all about the objects, I guess, right now. How they look, how they work. And also, let's have a look at the second type of compound value, and this one is called array. By the way, about objects, objects are like dictionaries in Python. I know that some of you are familiar with Python, so from what I remember, objects are very similar to what like dictionaries are in Python. Okay, and arrays are mainly very similar in most of the languages, so let's define some array right now. Let's create something like that. Const numbers, let's say 2, 4, 6, 9, that's all. All right. So this is array. And as you can see, the difference between array and object, first of all, is that we don't have curly brackets here, but the normal brackets. By the way, I'm not sure, is it visible on YouTube? Can you see those details? I don't know. Can someone give me a feedback about this?
Yes, they can see. I'm checking it, by the way.
Okay.
It is visible.
Okay, because sometimes due to the quality, it may be not so. Okay, so as you can see, this is the first difference. And second difference is that in arrays, we don't have keys like in objects. We have just values. Let's check the numbers, value, numbers, array. And as you can see in console, we have as 2, 4, 6, 9, yes? All right, so you can ask, okay, cool, but how can I, let's say, access some of the values? Like in, for example, in object, you could use the dot notation and get the objects. Can you do the same here? Well, you will say dot, but dot what? Dot 2, for example? No, it will not work. There isn't such a thing. So in case of arrays, we have to use a bracket notation, and each of the value in array has its own index. And what are those indexes? It's like the special ID number. For example, let's have a look at here. 2, 4, 6, 9. So we have 4 numbers, yes? So let's say, what if I want to see just number 4? What should I write here? Maybe you will say 1, 2. So 2, second position, yes? Let's try. And we have 6. Oh, why? Why it's like that? Because in programming in general, not just in JavaScript, we count not from 1, but from 0. So in this case, we have to write 1, and we will get 4. In the same way, you can modify values of array just like we modified in the object. For example, you write array name, brackets, let's say 1, and let's say it will be, or let's say 2, for example. Let's write 6. And guess what will happen right now? Ta-da! 2, 4, 6, 9. So as you can see, now we have both numbers and strings inside of the one, let's say, same array. All right, so now we can see how we can access the values in arrays, how we can modify them, how we can change them. And we can also add new values to both arrays and objects in the very similar way. Please forgive me, today I want to skip on this topic, but it's about using methods. For example, we could use something like numbers that push. It is kind of a function which we will cover very soon. And now let's see. Now we can have it at the end of the name. Let's try it several times. Let's run this code. And as you can see, we pushed it several times, so we can push. What if you, for example, want to put it on the beginning? We can say unshift. And now we'll have this also on the front. This is those are array methods. Don't worry about this. We will cover it maybe next time. I just wanted to show you there is something like that. So now again we have just this numbers, and basically that would be all about the compound values in JavaScript right now. So now let's have a look at one of the last concepts today. And this will be, let's think like that. Think like that in console log, we want to add 2 + 2. Let's see what will happen. 4, right? So this is kind of a mathematical operation. And it's okay, but it's not very, let's say, useful. Because we have to always rewrite everything from the beginning again and again and again and again. However, computers and programming and technology at first place was created to automate, make some things automatically, get rid of the, repetition, makes our life easier, faster, with doing less things. That's why we should also follow this principle while coding. And this is called DRY. Like dry. It means don't repeat yourself. So always you should write code that you will be able to reuse at some point again and again and again and again in your code. So instead of this, let's have a look at functions. So this is how function in JavaScript can look like. For example, just like in variables, first of all, we have the keywords. So instead, in case of variables, we had var, let, and const. And in case of function, we have function keyword. Then after function keyword, we have the name. So for example, calculate age, let's say. And then we have parentheses, 2 parentheses. And in those parentheses, we have to use, we don't have to actually, optionally, we can give some kind of input to the function. The names here are not important. You can use anything you want. It won't change the output of the function, let's say. For example, here we will want to input birth year and first name. Then after this parenthesis, we open function with curly brackets like that here. We also finish with curly brackets, like you can see, like here. And inside of everything what is in between those brackets is called the function body. So here you can give the content of the function. For example, here we define a new variable called age. And how do we calculate this value of this variable? For example, we have some year, 2037, minus birth year. So minus the input value from calling this function here. Then we have console log. This one should be, now you should be familiar with this by that time. So we have again console log. We have the template literals, first name from here, this is string, then we have this age calculated here is years old. And then we have the return keyword, And what do we return? We return this value of this variable. What is return? It may be a bit complicated for some of you. What is return? Return what? So we use functions to process some data and give you some kind of output, yes? We sometimes give some input and we want some output. So at the end of each function, we basically should return something. It's not always the case, but most of the time we should return something. So in this case, our function made those kind of calculations. And at the end of the function, we want to get the value. And what will be the value? It will be the age. But this is not finished. We have to call this function somewhere with some variables, values. For example, we can assign the function call to a variable. For example, const age is equal to calc age. So again, we use just function name. In between those parentheses, we use the parameters. So for example, birth year will be 1991 and first name will be Jonas. So then we will say Jonas is, I don't know, some years old. This is how it looks like. Let's look in the practice how it looks like. Function, let's give it a name at, and let's give it in between those parentheses, let's say first number and second number. Let's open the function with function body with these two curly brackets, and let's immediately return. What will we return? First number plus second number. Let's close with semicolons. Now let's run. Nothing. Yes, of course, nothing, because we didn't call the function. So we already have the function defined here. But what can we do? For example, let's say console log add parentheses, and let's put 2 and 2, for example. Let's close it. Let's run it. Ta-da! We have result number 4. So as you can see, we can change the variables. We can even change to something completely different. And as you can see, we will have the number. Always we will have the number here. We can also assign the result of one function calculation to some variable. For example, const 2 plus 1, let's say, is equal to, let's say, at, because we call the function name. And then in between those parentheses, we say 2 and 1. Let's close it. And then let's log it here, 2 plus 1. Ta-da! It works. So this is how we can use functions in JavaScript. We can also define functions in 2 different ways. For example, we can do it like that. We can use it in variable also. So let's say const add, normally as if we were declaring the variable, because actually we do. Then we don't need the name here because we have name already here. And then we will know that it will be a function. That's all it should work right now. Yes, it still works, as you can see. And there's also a third way to declare variables, much shorter. Some people argue that is it easier or not? And it's called the ES6 arrow functions. You can do it also like that. For example, you can do this at is equal to first number and second number. So here we have the parameters. We can use here the arrow, and we can now even remove this part here, and it will also work. Plus, we don't need the return statement because it will be returned automatically, and this should also work, as you can see. Maybe for some of you it will be a bit difficult. By the way, there's one more detail about these functions. We mainly use them in methods, which maybe we will talk about some lecture later. But it is also, sometimes it may be very confusing, and there is no this keyword in this type of functions, but don't worry about this if you don't understand it right now. And one more thing is that if you define function inside of the variable, look, I will explain what I mean. It won't be visible globally in the code, because like I told you, JavaScript is reading everything from left to the right, from the top to the bottom. So here, for example, it says, okay, at first number, this is the function, okay, and then it sees the function again here, so it's the call for function, okay, everything is all right. But what if we do something like that? Let's erase it from here, and let's put it here. Look, I just changed the position right now. Let's try, well, let's see what will happen. Reference error. Why it's like that? Because our JavaScript is reading this code, it sees the function call, but we don't have the function here, yes? It's not here. We cannot see it here. And in this case, what can you do? Then you should declare it under this, after declaring the function. Or let's look at this. What if we define it back again in function, keyword at? Then we will need to change it a bit again. Return first number, second number. Whoops, okay. Let's run. And look, it works again. Why it's like that? This is very characteristic behavior of JavaScript, that if you define a function with function keyword, it will be available globally. Everywhere in the code, you will be able to, let's say, access this function. All right, so this is all about functions, I guess. So let us change this object right now. If we know how the functions work, we have this here, the, let's say, object with my name and the information about me. Let's add also one more method here, let's say, and we will call it about me. It will be a function. And this function will console log this string. I am a student at let's say, template literals here, the string, the dollar sign, Pawel Kowalewski dot university. Yes, I'm at the university, this console log. All right. And look what will happen right now. The code works, everything, but we don't see anything right now, yes? And look, now we can call a function on the object. For example, let's do like that, Pawel Kowalewski dot about me. We will have to use this parenthesis because it's a function. Look, Pawel Kowalewski is a student at Piri University. So as you can see, you can put even functions inside of the objects. Pretty cool. And also there is one more advanced, let's say, topic, but I just wanted to mention, look, because I am inside of Pawel Kowalewski object here, and I am calling on this object again. So in this kind of case, if you don't have to use this object name once again, you can just simply change this with this keyword. And this will also work. Why it's like that? Because we call this object. So this object in the same object, because it's inside of this object. So we relate to the same object where is the function located. Okay, so this is all about functions, about variables, about operators. So we learned how we can define primitives, what kind of primitive values we have in JavaScript, compound values like objects, arrays, and functions. We know how to do that. Are there any critical questions right now? Something that you totally didn't understand, was something extremely difficult or something like that?
There is no question for now. Maybe we can wait.
Okay. All right. So that's how we are moving to the last part of our today's tutorial. We are almost at the end right now. And as you can see, we wrote quite a lot of code. Yes, JavaScript code here, here in this index.js file. However, if I click run, look, there isn't anything. Yes, even right now in console log, we don't print anything. We don't have any, let's say, functionality on our website. We don't see anything. It is useless, kind of, we can say. Yes, we still don't see anything. So, well, teacher, where is that web applications, websites, mechanism? Where is it? Where is it? And this is how we are moving to our last part, and it's called DOM, Document Object Model. So, as you know, our entry point to every website is HTML file. So everything will start and kind of finish with HTML file. So now we need somehow to connect JavaScript with this HTML file. And this is done thanks to Document Object Model API. Actually, it is, by the way, it is not something that was originally in JavaScript, which may be very surprising for some of you. But this is some kind of external program that is inside of the web browsers. So for example, if you are writing the code outside of the web browsers, this method may not work. So what is this? Let's have a look. First of all, this is not JavaScript code. This is HTML code. As you can see in HTML code, we have different types of elements, right? For example, there is the title and the section, this paragraph, some kind of anchor link. This is an image. We have some kind of image. So an HTML file is called a document, just like document. Yeah, document. I think that everyone knows this word probably. And this document has some kind of structure. As you can see, this is the structure. So everything starts from with HTML element. And this element has another elements connected to it. And those elements has another elements connected to it. We call them parents and child. Think like family tree. It works like family. For example, I don't know, your mother, father, son, daughter, like that. So it works like that. And at some points, also those elements, they have some values. For example, text. For example, I don't know, some kind of image, something different. And also they have style. You can, thanks to CSS, we can change the colors, text size, etc. So now we need some kind of special way how to make communication between HTML and JavaScript together, how we can change them, how we can make them work together. And this is how we move to the last part of our tutorial. Probably I will ask you for maximum 10 minutes or something, so if you can please stay with us, and I will show you I think, in my opinion, the most exciting part of this tutorial, where we will build a real working application and will be simple game. And we will use all of the, let's say, things that we've learned today, plus some extra small things. So we will use variables, we will use functions, we will use HTML, we will also use CSS for this purpose. However, it will be very simple and very easy, I think. So right now, if you want to participate with me, if you want to code along with me, please feel free to open somewhere this Screenba code editor. I will explain it once again for the ones who don't remember. So, Screenba. So you go to Screenba, then you click Screens. Once you are logged in, Screens, click on New Screen here. and click on JavaScript template here and submit. Once you click on submit, you should see this kind of a code editor like mine. It will be probably empty. I will just erase everything right now. If you don't want to code along with me right now, you will feel free just watch and listen and analyze. Or maybe you just want to take this code later and check it out alone. Right after this meeting, we will share this PDF file here, this one with you, where you will be able to find all of the links to including the JavaScript, this my project repository on GitHub, so you will be able to download this project and check it yourself. But I strongly recommend you to follow me, code along with me, because it's good to know some theory. It's also good to know some syntax about the language, but it is always the best way to create some projects. Even if you don't understand 80% of what you are doing, at some point you will understand, and don't worry about those parts. And I strongly, let's say, recommend you to build this kind of projects, because they give a lot of motivation and satisfaction when you see that something is working, and then you can analyze yourself. You can take even hours, check it again, break the code, rewrite it again, for example, rewrite it several times, change something, modify something. And trust me, this is the best way to learn programming. All right, so I will start. Right now, the pace of the code may get a bit faster. It may get also a bit harder. So please don't worry if you don't understand some parts. I will try to explain, but feel free to ask questions after all, and try to work with this project on your own after all. All right, so let's start from the HTML file. Let me just drink a bit of water and we can start. All right, so here we have almost empty HTML file right now. Yes, HTML. This is the empty, as you can see, nothing is on the website. We will try to make a game which you will create a random number, and this number will be shown here, and you will try to guess what's this number. If you get the number, you will see that you guessed it correctly. If not, you will see that it was wrong. All right, so I will start from defining a new, let's say, object div. I will give it ID, let's say class container. And let's do it like that. And every element right now I will add will be inside of this container. Let's start from a P, like paragraph. It will be just a question mark. Let's give it some ID. It will be a random number. That's how we will find this random number. Find this element right now. As you can see, if I run it right now, you can see, oh, there is a question mark here. Let's also add some button. And we say, let's say, generate a number. Let's say, generate a number. Button, run. You can see there's a button here, generate number, but it doesn't work, of course, right now, because we don't have any code. I think that's all for the time being. And let's give this button on click event listener. We will call, let's say, generate number function. So each time you click on button, the code, let's say if I run it right now, look, we will see reference under. We don't see, we don't have this function right now defined. That's why we see this in console. So each time we click on this button, we will call generate number function from index.js file. By the way, we could also write a JavaScript code here inside of the HTML code, but it's better to keep those files separate and just link them like that with source. Okay, let's start from defining the function generate number. In this case, we don't need any kind of input, so we can leave it empty. And let's create a a number. By the way, I will need some variable here. Let me define let number. By the way, pay attention, I don't give any value right now to this number. Pay attention to this one. And let's say number will be equal to math random. This is kind of function implemented in JavaScript. By the way, let's click it right now. We don't have any error right now, yes, so it works, but nothing happens, yes, nothing changed. So let's check what do we have. Console log number. If we run it right now, and if you click the button, you will see that we have some number generated here. Yes, for example, 0.8, 0.008, 0.2, etc. So this method, that random, generates a random number between 0 and 1, inclusive 1, but never 1. That's why let's, this is too small. So let's say, for example, we have to multiply it, let's say, by 100. Let's run it right now. Now it makes more sense. It's 465, something like that, okay? But it will be almost impossible for us to guess the full number, right? So we have to do something with this decimal point. How we can do, there's another JavaScript function called math floor, and it will let us cut this part. So let's embrace it inside of this parenthesis here. Let's run it once again. And as you can see now, thanks to math floor, it's now just the full number. Cool. We have all of the numbers right now. But still we can get 0, sorry. We don't want to get 0, so let's add +1. All right, now, okay, everything looks okay, looks good. But now we have to connect this output somehow to this question mark right here. How can we do that? We can do this with this document object model, with this, let's say, functionality. So how can we do that? Here we will define the new constant variable. Let's say it will be random number element. And let's say it will be equal to document, because this is our document, HTML document, dot, we will find this element by ID. What is the ID of this? Look, this is this ID, this one, P, random number. So let's put it inside of the curly brackets. Oops. Whoa. Okay. And let's say random number. That's all. Okay, now we have the connection in JavaScript to that particular element. And now what will we want to do? Let's say each time we click generate the button, we will call this function. First, we will generate this number, and let's add this random number element in, let's say, text content to a number. So we will assign this number to this value here. Let's run it. And ta-da, it works. Look, 40, 40, 59, 35, something like that. Okay, great. So we can generate different numbers, yes? As you can see, how many times we want. Quite okay. However, now we also need some kind of user input to make this more meaningful. How can we do that? Because now we have this number, but it doesn't make any sense. Yes, the game doesn't make any sense. You can guess in your mind, but how will you check? It doesn't make any sense right now. So here in our index, let's add a new element. It will be called input, and let's call it ID user number. Let's also make it type. It will be number. Minimum, we want, let's say, 1. Maximum value should be 99. And let's give it placeholder. So we should say, please input, let's say, number from 1 to 99. All right, let's say number 99. Let's run it now. Now, as you can see, we have an additional element here. So we can increase it like that. As you can see, it will stop here. We can just go maximum to 99. Yeah. So it works here. However, it's still useless because we cannot compare it. We don't have any kind of connection with this element yet. And also there's another different problem, but I will explain shortly. So now we will have to catch this other element. However, we will have to do this inside of the function. Today I will not explain why, but if you stay with me for next sessions, I will explain later. Let's define it with let this time. Let's say user number. Let's give it this variable, this kind of name. And user number will be equal to document. This time we will use different type of, let's say, connecting to those different types of connecting to the DOM elements. It will be called query selector because we have some like query language, like SQL, for example. Think in this logic. Select like selector, select something. So we will select. What will we select? We will select the hashtag because this is ID. Hashtag is also for ID. So ID user number. Let's check it. Was it this one? Yeah, ID is user number, yes. And we will also want that value. We will want value of this element. Let's check, does it work right now? Let's now inside of our console log, we will want to log user number. Let's check. Yeah, it works, as you can see, 23, 1, great. So we can see the value of this input right now inside of our JavaScript code. Yes, we are on the good way. However, as you can see, we can generate numbers just between 1 and 99. But look what will happen if I will use my keyboard. It is too big, right? So we have to prevent this situation from happening. We can also write something like that. Or minus something. And this is not good. This is not what we want. This is definitely not what we want. Even though someone will try to break our program, we have to prevent those bad users from doing it. And we have to also think about the situations before they happen. How can we do this? We can do this in many different ways, but let's do it like that. First of all, let's make a if statement, and let's say like that. As you know, a username should be it should be something positive, yes, more than 1. So we can do this with exclamation mark username. And if username is empty, for example, we will want to give it alert. Please input a number 1 to 99. Yes. Let's run it. Look, if it's empty right now, I get the alert here. But if I write something, we don't have any alert. Okay, good. But still I can write very long numbers. So what we can do instead of it, let's write like that. Let's change this and let's write like that. If user number is bigger than 0 and user number is smaller or equal to 99, then we will want to run this code. Yes, let's put it inside here. Like that, let's indent it. By the way, indentation is not important in JavaScript. You can write everything on the single line, but we do this just for the clarity. In Python, for example, it would make a problem if you don't use the right indentation, but in JavaScript, it is just a visual part for us. So just to make the code more readable. And now let's check it. Does it work? Yeah. What if I write something like that? No, we don't. The number is not changing. So what we can do here, let's write else. So if this is wrong, if the number is not bigger than 0, or let's say, and if it's not smaller or equal to 99, so if it's like 0, -1, and 100, something like that, anything else than this option. So anything else, any other situation, we will want to write alert and this message. So please input number between, let's say, number 1 to 99. Okay, let's try. Please input number. Let's write 23. Okay, works. The same. Great. So we already prevented some bad behavior. We should also return from this program function not to, let's say, execute it anymore once we are done with this. So we can just return, finish the program. We don't have to return any value here. That's enough. Okay, but now we also want to let the user know that he guessed the right number or wrong number. So we almost finished, by the way. Let's add here one more element. And here we can add, again, a paragraph element. Let's leave it empty for the time being. Let's give it an ID of answer, let's say. Let's run it. And now we don't see anything, of course. We have some numbers, but nothing happens yet. So what we can do, go back to this file right now, and let's make another condition. Firstly, let's catch this element here, this answer element. So let's write const, or let's say let answer is equal to document. Actually, we could define it as constant, but anyway, let's leave it like that. Again, get element by ID. This will be answer. That's all for the time being. And here, let's create inside of this statement, let's create another statement which will check for another thing. Let's say if a user number is equal, look, now it is comparison to number. So if you guessed the correct number, what will we do? We will use the some function here. So we will connect to this answer element. So let's write answer dot text content is equal to congratulations. It is correct. Conscious, let's say correct. All right. And else, if it's not this number, then we will set another thing, text content, let's say wrong. Please try again. Let's run it. Let's see, does it work? Yeah, and we have it right now. Look, wrong, please try again. Two wrong, again, for now it doesn't work. 30. And we can just try. Oh, congratulations, we guessed one time. Maybe we will guess the number like that. All right, so our game is almost finished, as you can see. But now let's change some style, because it looks, you will agree probably with me that it looks very ugly. It doesn't look very good. So as a last part, if you are following with me, I promise this is the last 5 minutes. We are about to finish the whole project. If you see this next to the Explorer, you will have 3 dots. You can click on the 3 dots. Click this add new file. Let's name it index.css. So this will be the place where we will define our style for our document, for our HTML file, our website, our application. And let's also, just like we linked JavaScript to this element, to this HTML, we also have to do the same with CSS. However, with CSS, we do it in head instead of body. So we use it link. First, we name it link. Then let's, it will be relative. We need to always to define it. What kind of link is it? Style sheet. So again, once again, rel, style sheet, and href. So href, it's like source. What is the source? It will be index.css, because this file is here. So if you run it, it works, but we don't see anything right now because we don't have anything in our CSS file. Let's change it a bit. So let's, by the way, CSS is similar. It looks a bit like objects in JavaScript, not exactly, but as you can see the syntax, so you can compare. So let's say background, let's say color. Let's say we will define it as, let's say this sharp, hashtag 333, and let's run it. Ta-da! Yeah, it works. As you can see, we changed the background color. Now our font is also, font size is a bit small, so let's make it 2 rem. As you can see now, it's bigger, it's more visible. Let's also change the font family to something more interesting, maybe monospace. Okay, it looks different. And also now, as you can see, it's black by default. So let's change the color of it to white, let's say. All right, looks better, yes? Let's try. Yeah, I think looks much better right now. But still, we can fix a lot of things here. So now let's click on, let's relate to this container box. And let's give it some, now it's a bit on the left, so let's put it in the middle. Let's do it like that. Hi will be auto, with will be also automatic, and let's say margin, let's give it, let's say 100 pixels. And now you can see it's in the middle. So we moved this whole container into the middle of the website, let's say. Basically, I think that's all about it. Let me just check something, what I was planning to do here. But yeah, that's all I remember about this part. And also, let's have a look at this. That there's this numbers are on the left side. Yes, so let's do something with it. We can add text align. Let's say center. And now, as you can see, everything is aligned in the center. It looks even better. Plus, this buttons looks very defaultish, let's say. Let's give them some personal style. So let's make also like that container. And with this sign, we will reflect to the given elements inside, to the child elements of this container. Let's say it will be button and input. And here we can define it. Let's say, what can we say? Let's say background. Background color, light gray. Change. Not exactly. Background clip. Oh, sorry. Background color. Okay, now. How does it look like? Light gray, maybe light latte gray. I don't know. You say, is it good or bad? I don't know. Let's also change this border. So let's say border. We will make it solid. 2 pixel. Gray. Let's try. No, gray doesn't look very good. Dark gray. Dark gray. No, doesn't look. Let's make it black. All right. We can also make it bigger. Look, for example, if you change this values here, you can make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But let's keep it 2. I think 2 is quite okay. And let's also add some padding. So because this, so padding, let's say 2%, 3%. Yes, I think much better right now. It's, as you can see, those buttons are bigger now. And basically, that's all. I think looks quite okay. Ish. And the last part, let's say, when we generate the number, we can see this text is always the same color. So thanks to JavaScript DOM, we can also add another function here. If it's the correct answer, let's give it style. So CSS style, we will touch this style. Color, let's make it green. If it's wrong, let's make it answer that style. So style that color will be red. All right. So in this way, we have finished our application. Let's say it doesn't work now. Let's check 23. Wrong. As you can see, it's red now. Let's say 2, maybe 7, 24. Okay, I cannot guess right now. Let's try maybe once we will budget. Okay, I couldn't. But okay, you have to trust me. Actually, we can just test it. Does it work? Let's comment it out. Number, say 2. Let's say 30. Let's run. If we write 32, wrong. If I write 30, yeah, congratulations. So as you see, it will change to green. But of course, let's change it back again to the old code. And now everything should work. As the last part, let's give it a title. So here, just right after the container, let's add one more element, h3, for example. Guess the number. Let's run it. And that's all. That's how our game looks like. So this is all for tonight. If you followed with me, you can also develop this game further. You can add maybe some counter of the points, make the reset button, maybe timer, maybe some difficulty options, maybe, I don't know, many different. Feel free, use your imagination, do whatever you want with it if you are willing to do this. If you want to download this file, you can click on this, if you followed with me, you can click on this gear button here and click this button download as a zip, and then you will have this index.html file, a CSS JS file, and README, and then you can run this application on any kind of web browser through this HTML file. All right, so that's all for tonight. Thank you for listening.
Arkadaşlar hepinize dinlediğiniz için çok teşekkürler. Paweł hocam, thank you for your efforts by the way. Haftaya
let's talk about the questions, by the way. If there are some questions, let's
Yes, there was a question. The students who asked what is the most needed programming language for today also asked what about C#.
Well, C#.
About your thoughts about C#.
To be honest, I have zero experience with C#. I've never worked with C#. However, I was studying for a few months, actually, just computer and educational technologies at Kulübü University. And there I remember that C# was one of the lessons there. However, I didn't go that far. I didn't take this lesson. So I know that it's kind of used for academic purposes, probably, and more used for, let's say, schools. But from my personal experience, I don't have my personal, let's say, experience with C#. Let's also have a look at popularity right now, let's say the most popular programming languages 2021. And let's see where's C#. C# is on the 5th place. Not bad. Right now, oh, JavaScript is lower here. That's strange. Here, for example, JavaScript is 1, as you can see. And C# is not even here. So yeah, personally, I will not comment on C#. Oh, look, the top 8 most in-demand programming languages. Let's check. Python, look. This is also the answer to the previous question. So as you can see, Python, JavaScript, Go, TypeScript, Rust, and Kotlin, Java, C++. C# is the last. So it's still probably okay, but it's not like that. There was also a very nice graphic, I remember. Let me just stop sharing my screen for a second. And if there are any questions, I'm listening for extra questions.
There isn't any questions for now.
All right, just a second. I wanted to show you one file here. Yeah, this one. All right, can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
So maybe this can be the good answer for our friend's question. Oh, C# is also here, as you can see. Those are the most popular languages, and this is kind of in an algorithm, let's say, style. So you can see what is the demand of C# and other languages. C# is here. So as you can see, it looks like that. Maybe we can share this file also. Maybe I will share it in the. You can share it on the chat box. So like that.
Okay.
All right, so thank you all for listening. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope that you liked it. Please share your feedback. I would love to hear something from you. What do you think about JavaScript right now? Did you learn something new today? Was it very difficult to understand? What do you think about JavaScript right now? Do you want to learn it now? Or what would you like to build with JavaScript? And like that.
Paweł Hocam, thank you again for your efforts. Arkadaşlar, ilk canlı yayınımızın sonuna geldik. Hepinize dinlediğiniz için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Yarın saat 9'da Batuhan Atasoy hocamızla beraber Python'a giriş eğitimimiz olacak. Hepinize tekrardan çok teşekkürler. İyi akşamlar dileriz.